Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. The vow to read Srila Prabhupada's books every day is keeping me in the game, so to speak. So today is the first beautiful Saturday weather-wise in Houston. So a lot of devotees are out doing a preaching program in the park. We have the real hardcore family members here, 3 of them. Pranata Karuna, Guru Priya, and Bhakti and Hannah. And so we're in good company. And all of you out there in cyberspace, welcome. Let's read Srila Sanatana Goswami's prayer to the Srimad-Bhagavatam, the glories of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Goes like this. Sarvashastabdipi Yusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar for the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kalidwandotita Didya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madgudo Man Mahadana Mannishtadaga Madbhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadhu tadayin adini chochata kara hanamun jagadachin mam premna rit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Okay, here we are back in our reading, continuous reading of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. We're in Canto 5, Chapter 17, the descent of the river Ganges. Starting with text number 6. On top of Mount Meru, the Ganges divides into 4 branches, each of which gushes in a different direction, east, west, north, and south. These branches, known by the names Sita, Alakananda, Chakshu, and Bhadra, flow down to the ocean. Text 6. The branch of the Ganges known as the Sita flows through Brahmapuri, atop Mount Meru, and from there it runs down to the nearby peaks of the Kesharachala mountains, which stand almost as high as Mount Meru itself. These mountains are like a bunch of filaments around Mount Meru. From the Kesarachala mountains, the Ganges flows to the peak of the Gandhamadana mountain, and then flows into the land of Bhadrashva Varsha. Finally, it reaches the ocean of salt water in the east. Text 7. The branch of the Ganges, known as Chakshusha, falls under the summit of Malyavan mountain, and from there cascades onto the land of Ketumala-varsha. The Ganges flows incessantly through Ketumala-varsha, and in this way reaches the ocean of salt water in the west. Text 8. The branch of the Ganges known as Bhadra flows from the northern side of Mount Meru. Its waters fall under the peaks of the Kumuda mountain, Mount Nila Shweta mountain, and Shringaman mountain in succession. Then it runs down into the province of Kuru, and after crossing through that land, flows into the saltwater ocean in the north. Text 9. Similarly, the branch of the Ganges known as the Alaknanda flows from the southern side of Brahmapuri, Brahmasadana. Passing over the tops of mountains in various lands, it falls down with fierce force upon the peaks of the mountains Himakuta, and Himakuta. After inundating the tops of those mountains, the Ganges falls down under the tract of land known as Bharatavarsha, which she also inundates. And the Ganges flows into the ocean of salt water in the south. Persons who come to bathe in this river are very fortunate. It is not very difficult for them to achieve with every step the results of performing great sacrifices like the Rajasuya and Ashwamedha yagyas. Purport. The place where the Ganges flows into the salt water of the Bay of Bengal is still known as Ganga Sagara, or the meeting place of the Ganges and the Bay of Bengal. On Makara Sankranti, in the month of February, thousands of people still go there to bathe, hoping to be liberated. That they can actually be liberated in this way is confirmed herein. For those who bathe in the Ganges at any time, the results of great sacrifices, like the Ashwamedha and Rajasuya and yagyas, are not at all difficult to achieve. Most people in India are still inclined to bathe in the Ganges, and there are many places where they can do so. At Prayag, Allahabad, many thousands of people gathered during the month of January to bathe in the confluence of the Ganges and Yamuna. Afterward, many of them go to the confluence of the Bay of Bengal and the Ganges to take bath there. Thus, it is a special facility for all the people of India that they can bathe in the water of the Ganges at so many places of pilgrimage. Text 10. Many other rivers, both big and small, flow from the top of Mount Meru. These rivers are like daughters of the mountain, and they flow to the various tracts of land in hundreds of branches. Text 11. Among the 9 Varshas, the tract of land known as Bharatvarsha is understood to be the field of fruitive activities. Learned scholars and saintly persons declare the other 8 Varshas to be meant for highly elevated pious persons. After returning from the heavenly planets, they enjoy the remaining results of their pious activities in these 8 earthly Varshas. Purport. The heavenly places of enjoyment are divided into 3 groups. The celestial heavenly planets, the heavenly places on earth, and the Bila heavenly places, which are found in the lower regions. Among these 3 classes of heavenly places, Bhoma, Swarga, Padanti, the heavenly planets on earth are 8 Varshas other than Bharatvarsha. In Bhagavad Gita 9.21, Krishna says, Chine punye marchalokam vishanti. When the persons living in the heavenly planets exhaust the results of their pious activities, they return to this earth. In this way, they are elevated to the heavenly planets, and they then again fall to the earthly planets. This process is known as Brahmanda Brahmana, wandering up and down throughout the universes. Those who are intelligent, in other words, those who have not lost their intelligence, do not involve themselves in this process of wandering up and down. They take to the devotional service of the Lord so that they can ultimately penetrate the covering of this universe and enter the spiritual kingdom. Then they are situated on one of the planets known as Vaikuntha Loka, or still higher, Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan. Oh, there's supposed to be a comma after higher. Is there a comma after higher in the book?
Yeah.
Yeah. These are just glitches in the database. A devotee is never caught in the process of being promoted to the heavenly planets and again coming down. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Se rupe brahmanda brahmite konya bhag jeev Guru Krishna prasadi poya bhakti lata bij. Among all the living entities wandering throughout the universe, one who is most fortunate comes in contact with the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus gets the opportunity to execute devotional service. Those who are sincerely seeking the favor of Krishna come in contact with a guru, a bona fide representative of Krishna. The Mayavadis, indulging in mental speculation, and the karmis, desiring the results of their actions, cannot become gurus. A guru must be a direct representative of Krishna who distributes the instructions of Krishna without any change. Thus, only the most fortunate persons come in contact with the guru. As confirmed in the Vedic literatures, tad vijnanartan sagarum eva bigachtet. One has to search out a guru to understand the affairs of the spiritual world. Srimad-Bhagavatam also confirms this point. Tasmat gurum prapadyeta jigyasu shreya uttamam. One was very interested in understanding the activities of the spiritual world must search out a guru, a bona fide representative of Krishna. From all angles of vision, therefore, the word guru is especially meant for the bona fide representative of Krishna and no one else. Padma Purana states, Avaishnavo gurur nasyat. One who is not a Vaishnava, or who is not a representative of Krishna, cannot be a guru. Even the most qualified Brahmana cannot become a guru if he is not a representative of Krishna. Brahmanas are supposed to acquire 6 kinds of auspicious qualifications. They become very learned scholars, patana, and very qualified teachers, patana. They become expert in worshipping the Lord or the demigods, yajana, and they teach others how to execute this worship, yajana. They qualify themselves as bona fide persons to receive alms from others, pratigraha, and they distribute the wealth in charity, dana. Yet even a Brahmana possessing these qualifications cannot become a guru unless he is the representative of Krishna, guru, nasasyat. Vaishnava, sapacho, guru. But a Vaishnava, a bona fide spiritual master of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, can become a guru even if he is Shopacha, a member of a family of dog-eaters. Of the three divisions of heavenly planets, Swargaloka, Bhauma Swarga, of the 3 divisions of heavenly planets, Swargaloka, Bhauma Swarga is sometimes accepted as the tract of land in Bharatavarsha known as Kashmir. In this region there are certainly good facilities for material sense enjoyment, but this is not the business of a pure transcendentalist. Rupa Goswami describes the engagement of a pure transcendentalist as follows. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma janavritam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttama. One should render transcendental, loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. Those who fully engage in devotional service to Krishna just to please him are not interested in the three divisions of heavenly places, namely Dibya Swarga, Bhoma Swarga, and Bila Swarga. Text 12. In these 8 varshas, or tracts of land, human beings live 10,000 years according to earthly calculations. All the inhabitants are almost like demigods. They have the bodily strength of 10,000 elephants. Indeed, their bodies are as sturdy as thunderbolts. The youthful duration of their lives is very pleasing, and both men and women enjoy sexual union with great pleasure for a long time. After years of sensual pleasure, when a balance of 1 year of life remains, the wife conceives a child. Thus, the standard of pleasure for the residents of these heavenly regions is exactly like that of the human beings who lived during Treta Yuga. It's very interesting. There are 4 yugas: Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. During the first yuga, Satya Yuga, people were very pious. Everyone practiced the mystic yoga system for spiritual understanding and realization of God. Because everyone was always absorbed in samadhi, no one was interested in material sense gratification or material sense enjoyment. During Treta Yuga, people enjoyed sense pleasure without tribulations. Material miseries began in Dwapara Yuga, but they were not very stringent. Stringent material miseries really began from the advent of Kali Yuga. Another point is that in this verse is that all 8 of these heavenly varshas, although men and women enjoy sex pleasure, there is no pregnancy. Pregnancy takes place only in lower grade life. For example, animals like dogs and hogs become pregnant twice a year, and each time they beget at least half a dozen offspring. Even lower species of life, such as snakes, give birth to hundreds of youth at one time. This verse informs us that in grades of life higher than ours, pregnancy occurs once in a lifetime. People still have sex life, but there is no pregnancy. In the spiritual world, people are not very attracted to sex life due to their exalted devotional attitude. Practically speaking, there is no sex life in the spiritual world. But even if sometimes it does occur, there is no pregnancy at all. On the planet Earth, however, human beings do become pregnant, although the tendency is to avoid having children. In this sinful age of Kali, people have taken to the process of killing the child in the womb. This is the most degraded practice. It can only perpetuate the miserable material conditions of those who perform it. So it's interesting, see, because there were 8, remember there were 9 varshas, described in Bhumandala, right? But of those 9, 8 of them are called heavenly varshas, right? So anyway, if you listen to those lectures I recommended from Sadaputta, he makes this point and many others, because he looked at this subject matter very deeply, and through the eyes of other Vedic literatures also, especially Surya Siddhanta and other Vedic literatures that have to do with astronomy and astrology, which are also considered bona fide Vedic literatures. And he makes this reconciliation between the two. And one of the points he makes is that these varshas that are described here, other than Bharatvarsha, which is described in the purport by Prabhupada as a planet, a separate planet, you can't see them from here. And you can't go to those places without qualification, without proper qualification. It's very interesting. Text 13. In each of those tracts of land there are many gardens filled with flowers and fruits according to the season, and there are beautifully decorated hermitages as well. Between the great mountains, demarcating the borders of those lands, lie enormous lakes of clear water filled with newly grown lotus flowers. Aquatic birds, such as swans, ducks, water chickens, and cranes, become greatly excited by the fragrance of lotus flowers, and the charming sound of bumblebees fills the air. The inhabitants of those lands are important leaders among the demigods. Always attended by their respective servants, they enjoy life in gardens along the lakes. In this pleasing situation, the wives of the demigods smile playfully at their husbands and look upon them with lusty desires. All the demigods and their wives are constantly supplied with sandalwood pulp and flower garlands by their servants. In this way, all the residents of the 8 heavenly varshas attracted by the activities of sex. Purport. Here is a description of the heavenly places on earth. The inhabitants of those tracts of land enjoy life in a pleasing atmosphere of clear lakes filled with newly grown lotus flowers, and gardens filled with fruits, flowers, various kinds of birds, and humming bees. In that atmosphere, they enjoy life with their very beautiful wives, who are always sexually stimulated. Nonetheless, they are all devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as will be explained in subsequent verses. The inhabitants of Bharatvarsha also desire such heavenly enjoyment, but when they somehow or other achieve imitation pleasures like sex and intoxication, they completely forget the service of the Supreme Lord. In the heavenly places on earth, however, although the residents enjoy superior sense gratification, they never forget their positions as eternal servants of the Supreme Being. Text 14. To show mercy to his devotees in each of these 9 tracts of land, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Narayana, expands himself in his quadruple principles of Vasudeva, Sankarsana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. In this way he remains near his devotees to accept their service. Purport. In this connection, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur informs us that the demigods worship the Supreme Lord in his various deity forms, Archa Vigraha, because except in the spiritual world, the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be directly worshipped in person. In the material world, the Lord is always worshipped as the Archa Vigraha, or deity in the temple. There is no difference between the Archa Vigraha and the original person, and therefore those who are engaged in worshipping the deity in the temple in full opulence, even on this planet, should be considered to be directly in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without a doubt. As enjoined in the Shastras, Arche Vishnau Shila Dir Gurushu Naramati. No one should treat the deity in the temple as stone or metal, nor should one think that the spiritual master is an ordinary human being. One should strictly follow this Shastric injunction and worship the deity, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without offenses. The spiritual master is the direct representative of the Lord, and no one should consider him an ordinary human being. By avoiding offenses against the deity and the spiritual master, one can advance in spiritual life or Krishna consciousness. In this regard, the following question appears in the Laghu Bhagavatamrita. Padme tu parama vyomna purvadye dik chatushtaye vasudevadayo vyuhash chatvarat katitakramat tata pada vibhutao cha nivasanti kramadi me jalavritista vaikunte stita vedabhati pure. Satyodve Vaishnave Loke Nityakye Dvaraka Pure Shudho Dad Utade Shweta Dvipe Chairavati Pure Chidam Buddhistitante Grodhaparyang Tadamani Sat Bhatiye Kochit Tantre Navavyuha Prakirtitaha Chatvado Vasudevadya Narayana Nrishingakao Hayagrivo Mahakrodo Brahmachiti Navodita Tatra Brahma Tubigyeya Purvokta Vidya Harihi. In the Padma Purana, it is said that in the spiritual world, the Lord personally expands in all directions and is worshipped as Vasudeva, Sankarsana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. The same God is represented by the deity in this material world, which is only 1/4 of his creation. Vasudeva, Sankarsana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha are also present in the 4 directions of this material world. There is a Vaikuntha covered with water in this material world, and on that planet is a place called Vedavati, where Vasudeva is located. Another planet known as Vishnu Loka is situated above Satyaloka, and there Sankarsana is present. Similarly, in Dwarkapuri, Pradyumna is the predominator. On the island known as Shwetadweep, there is an ocean of milk, and in the midst of that ocean is a place called Airavati Pura, where an Aniruddha lies at Ananta. In some of the Sapata Tantras, there is a description of the 9 Varshas and the predominating deity worshipped in each. 1. Vasudeva, 2. Sankarsana, 3. Pradyumna, 4. Aniruddha, 5. Narayana, 6. Nrishinga, 7. Hayagriva, 8. Mahavaraha, and 9. Brahma. The Lord Brahma mentioned in this connection is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When there is no fit human being to empower as Lord Brahma, the Lord himself takes the position of Lord Brahma. Tatra Brahma Tubigyeya Purvokta Vidya Harihi. That Brahma mentioned here is Hari himself. Text 15. Shukadeva Goswami said, in the tract of land known as Ilavrita Barsha, the only male person is Lord Shiva, the most powerful demigod. Goddess Durga, the wife of Lord Shiva, does not like any man to enter that land. If any foolish man dares to do so, she immediately turns him into a woman. I shall explain this later in the 9th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Text 16. In Ilavrita Barsha, Lord Shiva is always encircled by 10 billion maidservants of Goddess Durga who minister to him. The quadruple expansion of the Supreme Lord is composed of Vasudeva, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Sankarsana. Sankarsana, the 4th expansion, is certainly transcendental, but because his activities of destruction in the material world are in the mode of ignorance, he is known as Tamasi, the Lord's form in the mode of ignorance. Lord Shiva knows that Sankarsana is the original cause of his own existence, and thus he always meditates upon him in trance by chanting the following mantra. Purport. Sometimes we see a picture of Lord Shiva engaged in meditation. This verse explains that Lord Shiva is always meditating upon Lord Sankarsana in trance. Lord Shiva is in charge of the destruction of the material world. Lord Brahma creates the material world, Lord Vishnu maintains it, and Lord Shiva destroys it. Because destruction is in the mode of ignorance, Lord Shiva and his worshipable deity Sankarsana are technically called Tamasi. Lord Shiva is the incarnation of Tamaguna, Since Lord Shiva and Sankarsana are always enlightened and situated in the transcendental position, they have nothing to do with the modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. But because their activities involve them with the mode of ignorance, they are sometimes called tamasi. Text 17. The most powerful Lord Shiva says, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you in your expansion as Lord Sankarshan. You are the reservoir of all transcendental qualities, competing with the conch shell of Maya. Okay. The most powerful Lord Shiva says, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you in your expansion as Lord Sankarshan. You are the reservoir of all transcendental qualities. Although you are unlimited, you remain unmanifest to the non-devotees. Text 18. O my Lord, you are the only worshipable person, for you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the reservoir of all opulences. Your secure lotus feet are the only source of protection for all your devotees, whom you satisfy by manifesting yourself in various forms. O my Lord, you deliver your devotees from the clutches of material existence. Non-devotees, however, remain entangled in material existence by your will. Kindly accept me as your eternal servant. Text 19. We cannot control the force of our anger. Therefore, when we look at material things, we cannot avoid feeling attraction or repulsion for them. But the Supreme Lord is never affected in this way. Although he glances over the material world for the purpose of creating, maintaining, and destroying it, he is not affected, even to the slightest degree. Therefore, one who desires to conquer the force of the senses must take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Then he will be victorious. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always equipped with inconceivable potencies. Although creation takes place by his glancing over the material energy, he is not affected by the modes of material nature. Because of his eternally transcendental position, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears in this material world, the modes of material nature cannot affect him. Therefore, the Supreme Lord is called Transcendence, and anyone who wants to be secure from the influence of the modes of material nature must take shelter of him. Text 20. For persons with impure vision, the Supreme Lord's eyes appear like those of someone who indiscriminately drinks intoxicating beverages. Thus bewildered, such unintelligent persons become angry at the Supreme Lord, and due to their angry mood, the Lord himself appears angry and very fearful. However, this is an illusion. When the wives of the serpent demon were agitated by the touch of the Lord's lotus feet, due to shyness, they could proceed no further in their worship of him. Yet the Lord remained unagitated by their touch, for he is equipoised in all circumstances. Therefore, who will not worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Purport. Anyone who remains unagitated, even in the presence of cause for agitation, is called dhira, or equipoised. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, being always in a transcendental position, is never agitated by anything. Therefore, someone who wants to become dhira must take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 2.13, Krishna says, Dhiras tatra namuyati. A person who is equipoised in all circumstances is never bewildered. Prahlad Maharaj is a perfect example of a dhira. When the fierce form of Nrsingadev appeared in order to kill Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad was unagitated. He remained calm and quiet, whereas others, including even Lord Brahma, were frightened by the features of the Lord. Text 21. Lord Shiva continued, all the great sages accept the Lord as the source of creation, maintenance, and destruction, although he actually has nothing to do with these activities. Therefore the Lord is called unlimited. Although the Lord in his incarnation as Shesha holds all the universes on his hoods, each universe feels no heavier than a mustard seed to him. Therefore, what person desiring perfection will not worship the Lord? Purport. The incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead known as Shesha or Ananta has unlimited strength, fame, wealth, knowledge, beauty, and renunciation as described in this verse. As described in this verse, Ananta's strength is so great that the innumerable universes rest on his hoods. He has the bodily features of a snake with thousands of hoods, and since his strength is unlimited, all the universes resting on his hoods feel no heavier than mustard seeds. We can just imagine how insignificant a mustard seed is on the hood of a serpent. In this conversation, the reader is referred to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 5, verses 117 through 125. There it is stated that Lord Vishnu's incarnation as the serpentine Anantashesha Naga supports all the universes on his hoods. By our calculation, the universe may be very, very heavy, but because the Lord is Ananta, unlimited, he feels the weight to be no heavier than a mustard seed. Texts 22 and 23. From that Supreme Personality of Godhead appears Lord Brahma, whose body is made from the total material energy, the reservoir of intelligence predominated by the passionate mode of material nature. From Lord Brahma, I myself am born as a representation of false ego known as Rudra. By my own power, I create all the other demigods, the 5 elements, and the senses. Therefore, I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than any of us, and under whose control are situated all the demigods, material elements, and senses, and even Lord Brahma, and I myself, like birds bound by a rope. Only by the Lord's grace can we create, maintain, and annihilate the material world. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Being. Purport. A summary of creation is given in this verse. From Sankarshan, Mahavishnu expands, and from Mahavishnu, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu expands. Lord Brahma, who was born of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, fathers Lord Shiva, from whom all other demigods naturally evolve. Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu are incarnations of the different material qualities. Lord Vishnu is actually above all material qualities, but he accepts control of Sattvaguna, the mode of goodness, to maintain the universe. Lord Brahma is born from the Mahat Tattva. Brahma creates the entire universe, Lord Vishnu maintains it, and Lord Shiva annihilates it. The Supreme Personality of Godhead controls all the most important demigods, especially Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, exactly as the owner of a bird controls it by binding it with a rope. Sometimes vultures are controlled in this way. text 24. The illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead binds all of us, conditioned souls, to the material world. Therefore, without being favored by Him, persons like us cannot understand how to get out of that illusory energy. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who is the cause of creation and annihilation. Purport. The illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead binds all of us, conditioned souls, to this material world. Therefore, without being favored by Him, persons like us cannot understand how to get out of that illusory energy. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who is the cause of creation and annihilation. Purport. Krishna clearly states in Bhagavad Gita 7:14, Daiviyesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapajante mayametam tarantite. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. All conditioned souls working under the illusory energy of the Lord consider the body to be the self, and thus they continuously wander throughout the universe, taking birth in different species of life and creating more and more problems. Sometimes they become disgusted with the problems and seek out a process by which they can get out of this entanglement. Unfortunately, such so-called research workers are unaware of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His illusory energy, and thus all of them work only in darkness, never finding a way out. So-called scientists and advanced research scholars are ludicrously trying to find the cause of life. They take no notice of the fact that life is already being produced. What will be their credit if they find out the chemical composition of life? All their chemicals are nothing but different transformations of the five elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 2:20, the living entity is never created. Jayate, najayate, mriyate, va kadachin. There are 5 gross elements and 3 minor material elements: mind, intelligence, and false ego. And there are eternal living entities. The living entity desires a certain type of body, and by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that body is created from material nature, which is nothing but a kind of machine handled by the Supreme Lord. The Lord gives the living entity a particular type of mechanical body, and the living entity must work with it according to the law of fruitive activities. Fruitive activities are described in this verse: karma, parvanim, mayam. The living entity is seated on a machine, the body, and according to the order of the Supreme Lord, He operates the machine. This is the secret of transmigration of the soul from one body to another. The living entity thus becomes entangled in fruitive activities in this material world. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 15:7, Manak, Shastanindriyani, Prakriti, Stani, Karshati. The living entity is struggling very hard against the 6 senses, which include the mind. In all the activities of creation and annihilation, the living entity is entangled in fruitive activities which are executed by the illusory energy, Maya. He is exactly like a computer handled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The so-called scientists say that nature acts independently, but they cannot explain what nature is. Nature is nothing but a machine operated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When one understands the operator, his problems of life are solved. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Janavam Mam Prapadyate Vasudevak Sarvamiti Samahatma Sadurlabaha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. A sane man, therefore, surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus gets out of the clutches of the illusory energy, Maya. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 5th canto, 17th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled The Descent of the River Ganges. Okay, we've done it. We've gotten through another chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, marching on towards the 10th canto. Okay, time for the open mic period. I can see that somebody's written some things down. What's going on in cyberspace today? I think we're having a late spring because of all the crazy weather. Nothing so far. Okay. Hannah's got the mic.
That was a sweet reading. Thanks for reading. I appreciate it.
I'm just doing my duty.
Thank you.
Just trying to repeat the words of my spiritual master.
Okay. I had a reflection and a question. My first reflection was from a text we read, text 20. For persons with impure vision, the Supreme Lord's eyes appear like those of someone who indiscriminately drinks intoxicating beverages. Thus bewildered, such unintelligent persons become angry at the Supreme Lord, and due to their angry mood, the Lord himself appears angry and very fearful. However, this is an illusion. When the wives of the serpent demon were agitated... this is it. When the wives...
So far it's good. Yeah.
When the wives of the serpent demon were agitated by the touch of the Lord's lotus feet, due to shyness, they could proceed no further in their worship of him. Yet the Lord remained unagitated by their touch, for he is equipoised in all circumstances. Therefore, who will not worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And two things I appreciated from this and the purport. The first thing I appreciated was the actual text itself. When I first started reading the Bhagavatam, the glorifications I couldn't really understand. And I'm not saying that I do now, but I can at least realize that they're not just words. You know, in this world, people say things, but it's just words. But these are coming from the heart, and it's true. So I appreciated that. And in the purport, it said, Prahlad Maharaj is a perfect example of Dhira. When the fierce form of Nrsimhadev appeared in order to kill Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad was unagitated. He remained calm and quiet, whereas others, including even Lord Brahma, were frightened by the features of the Lord. This made me really excited to hear about Prahlad Maharaj and Nrsimhadev, because that's such a sweet relationship. So I'm excited for that. My question is, we read today, the standard pleasure for the residents of these heavenly regions is exactly like that of the human beings who lived during Treta Yuga. My question was, do the yugas affect the heavenly planets?
Well, there's a hierarchy of planets, right? And there's above the heavenly planets, there are planets that are, most of them are like transcendental. They're not completely transcendental, but they're the forms and the personalities and everything are more subtle material energy, and therefore they don't get affected by the modes of nature in the same way. But still, it does happen, because sometimes, you know, the most powerful demons sometimes come and try to disturb. But the natural habitat, the natural life in Lord Brahma's planet, for instance, and Tapaloka and Janaloka, above those planets and the systems around them, which include the planets of the great sages and Shishumara, Planetarism, and all those places, they don't feel the modes of nature like we do. It's something, but not like we do. And like that, going down the below that, like for instance, Mahaloka, you know, when the universe is destroyed, their planet gets so hot, it doesn't become destroyed, but it becomes so hot they can't stay there. Then they have to go to Janaloka. And or maybe it's the other way around. Anyway, it's one of those two. And they live there kind of like refugees until the heat goes down, and then they go back to their regular planet. But below that, then the modes of nature felt by all living beings. But even then, there's a hierarchy. In the heavenly planets, they don't feel them as much. But these planets that are talking about here are the 8 varshas, or heavenly varshas. It's mentioned it now, 3 or 4 times. It mentioned that these other varshas, except for Bharat Varsha, and Bharat Varsha doesn't just mean India. In those days, India, Bharat Varsha meant the whole earth. So this is one of Sariputta's arguments, you know, that there's a swarga, you know, the word swarga is Boma Swarga, is put on the end of the dual compound that describes these varshas, and there's Swarga, and there's Bilva Swarga, which means lower planetary, heavenly planets, in the lower planet, and then there's Boma Swarga, or the 8 varshas other than the earthly varsha, and that's the varsha that we live in, the earthly planet. So this planet is where the modes are really experienced most strongly, and therefore, you know, the personalities who live in Swarga, they sometimes pray to take birth here, because here you can see both sides, the heavenly and the hellish, on the same plane, same place, and therefore it's easier for us to see the duality and want to go to the transcendental position. Also, we just heard how, you know, the residents of these varshas, other than the earthly varsha, this is another evidence that it's not the same. Sometimes people try to make a case that Bhumandala is the earth, and Bharat Varsha is just a part of that mandala, and therefore it's all just a flat plane of earth that covers, you know, the good part of the center of the universe. But there's arguments against that by our acharyas, previous acharyas. So it's not an easy thing to understand, all these things, you know. And because we can't see these things from our position, the only thing that we can do is take the words from the authorities coming from the Vedas. There's no other access, you know. You can have a radio telescope as powerful as you can make it or more, and you still won't be able to see Mount Meru or these other heavenly varshas that are supposed to be connected, but they're not connected in the way that this place is connected with Canada or North America to South America. It's not like that. It's different. Therefore, it's very difficult to understand, and very few can understand it.
Just to add to what you just said, during the reading tonight, I felt that if you try to, like you say, just play around with it in your head, I felt myself doing that, and then I felt what it was like to not do that, and I could feel myself moving forward.
Oh, that's nice. That's very nice.
Now we have a lot of
Please
questions.
continue in that direction.
Okay, we have lots of questions now from Cyrus first. Okay, first is Rasa Rasika.
Haribo Rasa Rasika, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. A devotee told me about a dream he had about Srila Prabhupada.
Is this the same person that talked about a dream before? Go ahead.
A senior devotee was guiding him through a house to a door with a bright golden light coming from it. The door was opened and the senior devotee said, "This is Srila Prabhupada." The room was completely filled with golden light emanating from Srila Prabhupada. He approached and bowed down to him. Srila Prabhupada placed his hand on his head, and he immediately felt completely free from all anxiety and the influence of the material energy.
Mm-hmm.
Are these types of dreams a spiritual reality or just a product of the material mind?
It's the same answer that I gave yesterday. Or was it yesterday or the day before? Yesterday. Anyway, same answer I gave before. You can't answer that question in an absolute way. Just a blank yes or no. Most of the things that come into our dreams are manufactured by the things that we've seen or done in our subtle bodies. Mm-hmm. If you think about it, the world that we have in a dream is just with us. Other people can't see it. If you're being chased by a tiger and somebody's sitting right next to you and you call out and you're dreaming and you call out, "Tiger, tiger," and they'll see you. They won't see a tiger because the dream is within your own world. You make up your own world with your own mind in the dream. But we're living in this plane. We're living in a world where all of us are in the same world, and we're having common experiences. We all know to stop when the light goes red, light goes green. We're in the same world and we're sharing the same experiences. But in the dream world, it's not like that. In the dream world, it's this Maya, the subtle body, is manufacturing, generally, it's manufacturing ideas and putting ideas together in the subtle body that we've had in this world, or perhaps in another lifetime, or whatever. Now, having said that, and that's generally what it is. So having said that, it's possible for Krishna to appear in any medium, even the mental energy. So just like the deity can appear in marble or in stone or in wood, and it's the same Lord, because he can make a form made out of anything, and it can be his form. Even on your computer screen, when you get a really beautiful picture of the deity and you look at it, it's like something else. It's something different. It's like it's not different than the Lord. Or even now, it's in your mind. If you meditate and have the capacity to control your mind to the point where you can visualize the form of the Lord in your mind, it's the same as the Lord, same as the original form of the Lord. Now, having said that, it's possible for a liberated person to enter into your dream and appear to you in the dream. But as I said before, it's not that you can just answer it and you can say, "Is that real?" it's real just as much as this material world is real, but it's temporary. And the other thing is that the effect that it has on us, those experiences, will determine, it should continue. There should be some effect that continues. And the other thing is that if you see something in a dream that is unlike what the spiritual master or Krishna does when they're actually present, then it's probably in your mind. I mean, I know many devotees who, when Prabhupada was here on the earth, when we saw him, we saw light coming from him. He would light up the room. I personally saw that. The first time I saw Prabhupada, he just lit up the room, and I felt liberated, you know. And but that was, you know, I didn't feel liberated from that moment on completely. I got that experience by being with him, you know, and then that experience went away. But there was something that stayed with me from the time I had that experience. Every time I saw Prabhupada, it was different, and I changed permanently. You know, even though sometimes I'm, you know, the modes of nature is one way or another, but I'm not the same after that experience. You know, no more doubts. So to answer the question directly, it depends on the actual experience, the effect it has on the person. It depends on whether or not Prabhupada or Krishna or whoever is appearing in that dream, you know, what they say and do. If they say and do something that they normally wouldn't do, you know, when they're present physically, then it may be just in your mind. But that doesn't mean that it's any less meaningful or any less wonderful. I don't know if I can go further than that. Each individual incident is unique and needs to be judged by all those things that I'm saying, that I'm mentioning. These are the things that Prabhupada told us about dreams.
Okay, the next question is from Prabhupada Priya Devi Dasi.
Hey Prabhupada Priya, it's about time. Hare Krishna. She's back in America.
Today I have been meditating on Srimad-Bhagavatam 7.5.30, the chewing and the chewed verse. I was wondering how such people can be induced to give up sense enjoyment. You seem to answer this in the reading that they need to somehow achieve the favor of the Lord. Can you please elaborate on this?
Maybe it was just this today, or maybe it was another day. There was a verse that described all the different things, auspicious things that we can do, following the Varnashram perfectly, going Vanapras, taking sannyas, doing yoga, mystic things, you know, and none of those things can actually please Krishna. They may be favorable to purify our senses and mind, you know, so that we will become more attracted to Krishna, but they're not, that doesn't essentially please Krishna. But what pleases him is if we get the mercy of one of his pure devotees. So that's the pathway to pleasing Krishna. And without actually pleasing Krishna, you may be able to control your own mind and senses, you may be able to see things and do things, you know, in the material world that you wouldn't normally say or do. You may be able to understand things more deeply and whatever, but to actually attract Krishna, you can't get pure love for Krishna unless he chooses you. There's another verse in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam that says this. So, so that's it. There's some things that are favorable to help us go forward in our spiritual lives, but when it comes to actually getting pure love of Krishna, only Krishna can give you that. And Lord Chaitanya came in his most munificent form, in the mood of Radharani, to give us that pure love of Krishna if we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and hear things. Thank you. That shocked my mind. My mind went to another place. Yeah. And then we get the attention of Krishna like that. Who is it that's calling? Maybe I should have seen the number.
It was from California.
It was from California. 650 number?
I think it was starting with a 3.
Okay. I mean, that's what Krishna says. That's what all the our acharyas say. You can't get Krishna's love by sacrifice, by austerities, by following rules and regulations, by perfectly doing your duties in the varnashram system, even by sannyas, even by hearing. But the hearing you'll please Krishna. The hearing, if you hear about Krishna and become attracted to Krishna and fall in love with Krishna, then Krishna will yayatam mam prapadyante tang satai vajamiham manabartete manusha parta sarvasha. So you can't, there's no other way to get Krishna, to get love of Krishna, pure love of Krishna. And unless you have pure love of Krishna, he won't appear to you personally, and you won't be able to do personal service to Krishna. Enter into the spiritual world and associate with his liberated servants in the spiritual world without pure love of Krishna, completely free from material desire. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanyas chasmi tatpataha, Krishna says in the Gita. Can't see Krishna as he is standing before you without performing pure devotional service. And the sadhana bhakti path is the path of purification of your mind and senses, so that your love for Krishna is awakened, and then you enter into spontaneous attraction to the service, the activities of Krishna consciousness, and from there, you become attracted to Krishna personally.
Okay. The next one is from Rati Manjari.
Haribo Rati.
Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. I have a question about what we heard tonight, about the heavenly residents being able to enjoy sex pleasure without getting pregnant. We heard that pregnancy only takes place in lower grade life like human society. How are we to reconcile this point, pregnancy as a low thing, with Krishna stating that he is sex life?
That sex life which is not against religious principles.
Yeah, she said to regulative principles, according to regulative principles. So the question is, how are we to reconcile this point, pregnancy as a low thing, with Krishna stating that he is sex life according to regulative principles?
Well, first of all, on the earth, the sex desire is, or the modes of nature work in such a way. This is what one of the differences between, there's the heavenly planets, then there's the earthly heavenly, and then there's earth. So the earth, the persons in the heavenly varshas get that facility. In the heavenly planets, there is no sin in sex. They're just using up their pious activities. But in the earth, there's sin and there's pious and impious. It's the land of karma. And therefore here, the sex life, which is done not purposefully for the purification of the world, which means the propagation of saintly persons. That sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles, means that it is done consciously by the husband and wife to bring a child into the world to make him a pure devotee. That is kamosmi bharatarjava. But sex life which is done for sensual gratification. Of course, there is sensual gratification that happens automatically when that act takes place. But when it's done with the sacrifice attached to it, which means the consciousness of the parents, you know, if they're purposefully have purified their consciousness through some kind of garbhodana samsara in the previous ages, or Prabhupada said 50 rounds of japa before. Then it becomes, as good as Krishna. It's not low, but at the same time, it is, because the result of it is, troublesome, and you can't have it without having babies unless you're in one of the other varshas, and then it's different. So everything can be used in Krishna service, but that thing is the hardest thing to use in Krishna service because it's so intensely, the sensation is so intense, and the attraction and the knot that's tied in the heart is so intense, There's many stories in the Bhagavatam of society girls from actual heavenly planets, not the varshas here, but the heavenly planets. They come and sometimes seduce the yogi or seduce the renunciate, and then even have a child by them, and then they just go back up to heavenly planet. They're not like ordinary women, You don't get so entangled, Menaka had Shakuntala, and then as soon as she just went back to Brahma or whoever else she was worshipping in the heavenly planets. So that's what it means. Kamosmi bharatarjava. It means when the sex life is done consciously in devotional service.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So, we hear, I hear in these books that marriage is so that you can have children that are Krishna conscious, but I've seen a lot of married people who don't have kids. I don't want to offend them and ask them because I don't know if they can have kids or something like that, but I've seen a lot of people who are married and they don't have children. So
A lot? What does a lot mean?
like
How many out of the hundreds and thousands of devotees. I don't think you've seen very many devotees yet. You don't have very much of a sample to go by.
'Tis true.
And sometimes there are cases in which a man and woman will marry just for preaching. It's possible, but generally it's not like that.
Or I've seen devotees who are married and the men are past 50 and they're still married.
Well, it's not a hard and fast rule. It's not like, okay, all right, 7, 10, 9, 8. Okay, I'm 50, bye, and then they go. It's not like that. It's not like that either. And you can, some Bhaktivinoda Thakur stayed in household life until almost the very end. When we try to make laws out of these things that are not meant to be rigidly made a law out of, then we'll start to judge each other by whether or not they're doing something exactly right or not. And then everything becomes confused. Everything becomes confused. Just like there's a certain number of hours that Prabhupada recommended that we sleep. But if you're not capable of doing that, but you're in devotional service and you need another hour, he said anything over 6 is in the mode of ignorance, but if you need 7, he also many times said between 6 and 8, no more than 8. Sometimes he said that, depending on who he's talking to. And devotees who tried to imitate Rupa Goswami and do 2, they ended up going crazy or be so sick they couldn't do any service after a while anyway. So that's not, these rules are not to be played, it's not mechanical, it's to give you a guideline. So all these things are meant to give guidelines so that you'll try to do things in a way that you'll gradually minimize the material activities. And if you try to minimize, like it said, not yashtatak yogosti nacharita customers, the sapna padashila say, jagatuya vicharjana. Where is that? Not yashtatak yogosti nacharikanta manashtata. Shapta shilas, jagato navicharjana. If you eat too much, if you eat too little, if you sleep too much, if you sleep too little. So what's too much and what's too little is different for each person. It's not like physics, like you have a slide rule and you calculate it. It's not like that. It depends on the person's evolution of consciousness, on their capacity to do it, and still keep themselves peaceful so they can do the devotional service. Or conscious, or strong. But if you're very, 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 like for instance, Srila Prabhupada said that Mahaprasadam cannot be contaminated. It can fall on the ground and it's still not contaminated. So there was a devotee in San Francisco who heard Prabhupada say that, and he started eating off the plates, not so that he wouldn't waste the plate of the guests when they came to the Sunday feast. And it got back to Prabhupada. He was doing that. And Prabhupada said, no, don't do that. He said, because if the person passes a disease onto you in that way, and you get sick, and you can't tolerate and continue to do your service. If you could, then it would be wonderful. The prasadam's not contaminated. The holy name is never contaminated, but because of our contamination, we can't perceive it the same. It's our problem, not the holy name's problem. If we're not getting, transcendental ecstasy every time we hear the name, our tears flow from our eyes and we'd shake and shiver and fall on the ground, That doesn't mean that the holy name's, contaminated. It's just we're contaminated. So like that, there are rules and there are regulations and they're to be followed or not, depending on our position. Raghunath Goswami, he didn't eat hardly anything. He didn't sleep hardly at all. But he didn't look like, he wasn't like muscular and strong and able to, he looked very sickly actually. But he didn't sleep because he was in so much ecstasy, he forgot. He couldn't sleep. So, better to stay regulated, regulate your sleeping, regulate your eating, and in that way your mind will be less disturbed, your senses will be less disturbed, and then you'll be able to go forward in Krishna consciousness and gradually reduce. First regulate, and then by that regulation then reduce as your attachment for devotional service grows and you want to be in devotional service more and more. Automatically those things will fall away, or they'll be adjusted in a way that you won't do too much or too little. What else? That's it? Okay, it's after 6 o'clock. I'm going to take you. I'm going to do a recording tomorrow morning, Sunday. Shweta Dweep is going to do. Thank you very much for all the nice questions out in cyberspace, and we apologize for any times that we have neglected to answer your questions when you ask them. We will be more attentive from now on, and whenever you ask them, we will try to answer them. Okay? Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Lord Shiva's prayers to the Lord ki jai. Mother Ganga ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. See you tomorrow, 4:30 afternoon, Western Central Time.